Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minutes here and welcome back to the workbench for another unboxing. This week I'm taking a look at some armour in the Sd.Kfz.234 Armoured Car from Airfix. So join me as I take a look inside the box and see what this one is like. So on the front here, you'll see that it is a vintage classic kit from Airfix. And up here, we've got a price, which was originally £6.99, but now is £4.89. And full disclosure, I didn't actually pay for this kit. This kit was donated to the channel by long-term friend, Moz6510 Models. So a massive thank you to Moz, and I will link his channel down below, so go take a look. So naturally, Moz has paid £4.89 for this kit, which, you know, as we go through, I think we'll see whether that was a reasonable price or not. So at the front of the box, we've got this vintage artwork, which, if we look on the side here, was done by Ken McDonough, or Ken McDonough, depending on his pronunciation. I probably butchered that. You can see that over the little while that this kit has been out, it's suffered a little bit of crushing, but I think that might have been my fault when I was transporting it from Moz's house to mine. Anyways, on this thin edge here, we can see we've got our normal warnings from Airfix, an address for the Hornby Hobbies company, and some symbols here, particularly this one here, which says that it's 8 years or older. And I think this one here means that there are elements here that can be recycled. On the other thin edge, we've got information that says the mold tools are made in 1964, so therefore it's a vintage model. The pack illustration, as discussed, was by Ken in 1975, so they don't quite match up, but the artwork is a little bit more recent than the moulding. And then we've got some information about the actual armoured car. Down here it tells us the finished kit will be 76mm long, it will be 26mm wide, and there are 57 parts included. And over here we've got our painting scheme, which says that it's just the German army from 1943 to 1945. We've got a skill level of 2, which is a little bit better than some of the other vintage kits I've looked at. I think, you know, maybe they've gone, oh, it's got more parts, so it's a little bit harder, but I think that the painting should be taken into that, and it's a slightly interesting paint scheme with all that mottling. And then we've got one flying hour, which if you cut out and keep, you can redeem it against other kits in the Airfix range, as long as you're a club member. Flipping over to the back then, we've got our Cartograph logo here, which tells us that the transfers that are included are manufactured by Cartograph and should be absolutely top notch. And then we've got our colour painting instructions, and it tells us that we've got some crew figures included, which should be painted in Humbrol 63 sand. So we've got our colour callouts down the bottom, which are all Humbrol colours, but naturally alternatives can be used if you want to. Looking at this, we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 transfers to apply anyway, so not too difficult on that front. The item code, by the way, was A01311V, V for vintage. So without any further ado, let's get this box open and see what was on the inside. As is usual, let's take a look at the instructions first, and you can see that they've printed these in colour, or with elements of colour. As is usual, on the front we've got some information about the actual armoured vehicle, but we have got some special instructions over here on the right. Spring pivot pins on gun 4 into holes in cradle side, so it's giving you a bit of extra information regarding the build of the kit. So it says here axle units 26 and 33, so those are the part numbers, are slightly angled downwards with axle stub parallel to top of body. Gun loader 54 to offside, gunner 55 to near side of gun. So it's giving you crew placement as well there, so you know where to put them, which is nice. I don't think I've seen that on other kits from Airfix before. Anyways, moving on down, we've got some information here that says you should give the parts a wash because they could be dirty from the moulding process. And then flipping over, we've got some helpful hints and tips and the key to the icons we're going to come across in our pictures. And speaking of the pictures, here they are. So these are going to be based off of the sort of vintage instructions which have been scanned back into the computer and then updated into the more familiar format from Airfix that they currently use. So I'm not a massive armour/vehicle guy, so I'm going to just call these things what I think they are. So we've got the gun mount and we add the gun onto it with the various small details, and then it looks like we install that into the top part of the vehicle, so the upper hull perhaps. As we move down then, you can see we're adding smaller details on and then closing the hull up, adding our suspension and the wheels to the chassis. And it says here that if you're careful and you don't glue your wheels, so just glue your retaining pin onto the axle, the wheels should rotate. So this adds a bit of play value, which I'm sure people tried to do with these in the past because they were sort of models and toys at the same time. And then moving on down, we've got to do the other side, and then we've got our figures, and you can put them on the bases if you want to. Yeah, so although it's got quite a few parts, it doesn't look overly complicated to do, and the instructions are relatively easy to follow and have some painting call out colours on there as well. Yeah, so not too bad. Let's have a quick look at our cartograph decals, and that's it. Like I said, there's just 4 of them. We've got 2 crosses and 2 license plates, and the printing is absolutely top notch, as to be expected from cartograph. I don't think that there'll be any problem putting these onto the model, and they should go on really well. So let's move on then to the actual plastic parts. And here we are. All of the parts come moulded in this yellowy sand colour. The plastic feels a little bit thick. It's not very flexible. It might be a little bit brittle if you try and bend it. But yeah, it's not too bad. There isn't much in the way of flash that I can see. So let's just lay them out. What have we got? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 2 hull parts which just come, you know, loose. So yeah, not too bad. Not too many bits by the looks of it. Let's take a look at this hull part then. So we've got primarily raised details on there. Fairly simple, but I imagine that the actual vehicle wasn't too complicated. Nothing on the inside, but I don't think they're, you're going to see anything on the inside. Other one has pretty much the same. The plastic feels a little bit greasy, so it would be worth giving these a wash if you have the opportunity to do so. And then this sprue, a little bit of flash in a few places around the tyres. But the details are, quite well reproduced. Some small parts here. The gun looks all right, but I would be tempted to drill out the barrel there to make it a little bit more realistic. But yeah, it looks to be all right. The barrel looks to be straight as well. Sometimes they come bent, so that's a bonus. There's even a few little rivets and things on the wheels there. If we get a bit closer, there we go. You see the rivets on there. That's pretty nice. And moving on to this, we've got some of the armour parts. Some scratches on the plastic, but that will be manageable if you give it a spray primer, and then your subsequent layers of paint should hide that. Is that a steering wheel or a gun control there? That's moulded quite well, and flash doesn't look to be too bad on here. Moving on to these parts, we've got our chassis components. Some little raised rivet details on there. Not overly complicated. And then finally, the last sprue, we've got these chassis components here. Little bit bent, I think. Or is that just how they're supposed to look? I think that's how they're supposed to look. We've got some nice details moulded onto this plate here. We've got the defensive plate for around the gun. And then we're met with our crew figures. And the crew figures, they look all right. They don't look too bad. The moulding is okay, but there is a bit of flash, and you might be able to notice as well that we've got a nice ejector pin marks on the back, which will need some cleaning up. But on the whole, completely usable and not too bad looking despite the age of the tooling. So yeah, let's wrap this one up. We've got 1, 2 bits, 2, 3, 4. Sprues all moulded in this sandy yellow plastic. Personally, I'm probably going to end up priming it and painting it with other colours when I come to do it. I'm tempted to do it as a mini diorama, but I guess we'll see what happens when we get around to that. No clear parts, but I don't think that this vehicle would have had that many clear parts anyway. We've got one tiny little sheet of transfers, which look absolutely fine and acceptable, and a set of instructions which are up to the usual standard from Airfix for the Vintage Classic range. All of which comes contained within this rather attractive box with this vintage artwork on the front and colour painting instructions on the back. So yeah, as we discussed earlier, this tooling dates from 1964 with the artwork dating from 1975. And as I think we have discussed as we've gone through, the mould quality doesn't look too bad. I'm of the impression that this kit was brought back into the Vintage Classics range in 2019, but at the time I'm making this video, it's still available on the Airfix website, so it's been in the range for a few years now, or at least available from Airfix for a few years now. Supposedly the last time this one was seen was back in 2013, which was unfortunately boxed in the red standard boxwork that they were using back in those days. However, because we've discussed this in previous videos, that's misleading because people think it's a new tool when it isn't. It's an old kit. Airfix have now decided that anything that was pre-Hornby will never be released in the red box artwork and will only be part of the Vintage Classic range. So they're going for a bit more transparency, which is a good thing to see. But since this was first introduced, it's been part of the Airfix range on and off since then, with quite a number of releases in that period. Personally, I think that £6.99 is a sort of acceptable price. If it was any more than that, I'd be questioning why. But as you can see, Moz got it for a discounted price, which is much more acceptable to me, given the fact that there isn't that much to this kit. You get 4 transfers, which is effectively nothing, and the plastic parts, although they're molded to a good quality, I don't think that they're going to be overly complicated to assemble. Skill level 2, yeah, I'd be tempted to agree with that assessment there. So yeah, on the whole, not a bad looking kit for its age and definitely worth a buy if you can get it for a little bit cheaper. But what did you think of my review? Do you think my assessment was fair? Let me know down in the comments. As always, a quick shout out to my patrons and channel members for the extra support they give the channel. A massive thanks to these guys on screen. If you'd like to find out how to join them, take a look at the links in the description. Once again, thanks to Moz6510 Models for donating this kit to my channel for me to build. I guess he thinks I need to do some more armour. Take a look at his channel, which I'll also link down below. If you're new here and you'd like to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and dropping a like on the video would be massively appreciated. Finally, the last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.